All right. Hello, everyone. Maken Tosch here. So, this is just going to be a single take when I'm recording this. So, bear with me here when if I stutter. You know my speech impediments and stuff like that. Okay. So, let me go ahead and just shut out. Okay, hide that. All right. So, I released a video not long ago showing my redesign of the war room for the Warbarge because I may have to consider you know the nomenclature of my worlds usually tends to confuse people. I've noticed. So people when I say war room, they some people seem to conflate that as a world itself. That's not a world. That's a section of the world. Kind of like like the bar area and stuff like that. That's within the world. And then there's another world that's called the Event Horizon Lounge, which is basically this bar and the DJ area. But and then sometimes that gets confused for being like the Warbarge too. So it can be a bit confusing. As just me trying to honor the original naming that was used for each of those sections. But yeah, moving on. So in my previous video, I talked about the redesign that I made for the War Room section of the Warbarge world, and the redesign was focused on modernizing it, making it in an attempt to make it as optimal as possible. And by optimizing it, I mean usually when you're loading into a world in VRChat and there's a lot of textures to load, it takes up memory. And so one workaround to that, to make it at least load faster, is basically to consolidate as much of the textures as possible into one texture. So let's say you have, I don't know, 100 textures, just arbitrary number I'm throwing out there. You put in just like one texture and or 100 textures, and then let's say you and they're each say 512 by 512 textures, or 256 by 256, like really small textures. Well, instead of loading 100 separate texture files into memory, let's say I just crammed them down to 10 larger textures, say 1024 by 1024, or 248 or 4096 by 4096. That's called atlasing. So basically you go from 100 files to 10 files. You're cramming them together into 10 textures per set. And so instead of loading 100 files into memory, you're now loading just 10 files into memory. They're just they're just bigger. And the idea is that when you're loading into the world, it takes less time to load because now you're only loading up less files. The only downside is, and this is where I learned recently, that when you optimize it that way, yeah, you're helping the world load faster, you're shortening the time, but you're simultaneously increasing the overall file size of the world itself. So, for example, the world that the Warbarge world was traditionally somewhere in the 60s or 70s when it comes to the megabyte size. But by atlasing, yeah, the world now loads faster, but when you spawn in, but the file size it ballooned to almost 100. And I realized, and I'm realizing that this is causing problems because I still have yet to add in the RDVs, or the remote deployment vehicle, or the dropship, as well as the actual visual Warbarge model itself. The Warbarge is basically the exterior version, the exterior model, and then there's the Warbarge world, which is basically the interior of it. And I have yet to add those models, the RDV, the dropship, and the little miniaturized Warbarge model, and those have textures too, and they contribute to the file size. But because my worlds were already reaching the 100 megabyte limit, I couldn't add any more of that. Now I could continue adding more of it, but then consequently that would result in my world no longer becoming Quest compatible, because in order for my world to be Quest compatible, it has to be less than 100 megabytes. And I couldn't do that, and I couldn't do it with that that way. So, so looking at it now, it's you see where I'm going with this. So I tried to experiment. I tried to lower the resolution of the files from, like, say, 4096 to 2098 or 2048, and yeah, it helped a little bit, but then the world was too close. Like, it was still too close to the limit, so I couldn't add the files. And I still wanted to go. I wanted a nice little comfortable threshold. So hold up, yeah. Don't you hate it when you have to scratch your eye while you were in VR? Oh, and by the way, if you happen to notice the background music, that's the world. So you see, as the background music is just looping right now. The soundtrack for that one, if I remember correctly, is I think it is Surplus of Rare Artifacts. All right, and so since my last video, I did add a few things though that didn't really add to the overall file size, and I'll show you to you in a bit. But yeah, so as a result, looking back at it, like, yeah, the Warbarge, the redesign of the war room itself looks really snazzy and, you know, like much more modernized and sleek. But problem was, the file size was really bothering me, so I couldn't get it any smaller. And on top of that, I've learned a lot of new tips and tricks regarding Blender and Unity that effectively made the original design of the war room, the classic design of the war room, look much better than even my redesign. And so this, in a way, practically humbled me. I felt really embarrassed that I didn't know about this sooner, and if I had known about this sooner, I probably would have never dedicated months in trying to redesign the war room itself. So basically, it kept calling me back over and over and over, and it got to the point where I just couldn't ignore it anymore. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the the resurrection of the old classic Warbarge design, but much better in how it looks with the techniques that I've learned. So let me bring you over here. Oh, before I move on, these are some of the assets that I added that actually did not contribute to the overall file size of the world, at least not significantly. These are prefabs. These are what's called the picture loaders. Picture loader prefabs were designed by Dr. Blackrat. You can download his prefab on GitHub. Basically, what it does is, the picture manager is an asset that you just drop into the world, and you then drop these little canvases that you just lay out. And sometimes it could be like these UI-based canvases that contribute almost nothing to the overall file size, or some picture frames which would only marginally ever contribute to the file size of the world. And then the picture manager would link each of these canvases to, say, a public link on the website, like Imgur. Let's say you have like an Imgur or Google Drive or something like that, and there, actually, I've experimented with Google Drive and it didn't work for some reason. The URL has to be a specific format, and Google Drive didn't provide that format, unfortunately. And so what then happened is, I would just link each of these canvases to that URL via the picture manager. And then as you spawn in, the picture manager will then start calling the URLs, and then apply that URL to the specific canvas that it's tied to. So right now, These pictures, none of these were preloaded in Unity. These are actively calling from Imgur. So that's their source. By the way, great art. Love this. Like this is supposed to be the like personified ships from EVE Online. So this was the Thrasher, and you have over here the Guardian. The Thrasher is the Mimitar destroyer, and the Guardian is the Amar Logistics ship. love the anime style of these. There's more around here. I'm gonna show you. Now, I also wanted to include propaganda posters because one thing EVE Online is really good at is propaganda, and I mean to the extreme. So, if you know, you know. Like so. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is a propaganda poster that features like the 3 major characters. You have this character over here with the money bags and the hat. That's the Matani. Let me see if I can remember the name. It's been a long time since I've said it. It's like, I think it's Alexander Matani. Alexander the Matani Gianturco. Did I pronounce your name, bro? Right? Did I pronounce that right? Like, pardon me. It's been ages since I've heard that name spoken out loud in full. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. And so, the Mittens, or the Matani, as people would just refer to him. He was either known as Mittens or the Matani. That's his character right there with the blue suit and the money bags. And right there you see a backstabbed character looking like Bob the Builder. And then you have all like the station and the ships all like all on fire. And then there's like piece of paper taped to the window that's a picture of the bee. So long story short, Bob, which is short for a band of brothers, was an alliance that held a lot of territory, and one highly disgruntled executive within the ranks who had like almost carte blanche access to the entire assets of the alliance said fuck it, partnered up with Mittens, and basically in just a single day practically took everything that wasn't bolted to the ground and disbanded the alliance, Band of Brothers, which is why on the bottom it says disband, and then everything was taken. And thus the meme of Bob returns is I guess that's what was born. It's like, yeah. And then there's this over here. This one here is from just to clarify over here, the B represents Goon Swarm. So yeah, like B, Goon Swarm. Oh god, that name does not age well in the context of Gen Alpha. Oh lord. Anyways, so the next one here, this poster is from Brave Newbies Incorporated. So again, propaganda is really big in EVE Online. So fun per hour. It's not what you fly, it's who you fly with. And then you see what I think that's the Atron. The Atron is the Galente frigate, and it's a tiny little ship. It's like every player starts with the Corsair starter ship, and then from there it's just a tiny little shuttle or frigate, and then you upgrade to your first frigate itself that's specific to the Empire. In this case, the Atron. It's still a tiny ship, but you can do just a little better. But if you really want to start toppling empires, join the club. It's not what you fly, it's who you're flying with. And here you see that lone little Atron joining that formation of other Atrons that form the Erebus, the Titan class ship from EVE Online for the Galente Federation. So yeah, that's. And it also has the website there, bravecollective.com. I don't know if that website's still active. These are sourced from Imgur again, by the way. So again, no the file size is barely affected here. So all right, moving on. Everything else has not been changed. Of course, this over here is the modern design of the Imperium. Well, formerly Goon Swarm, but now they call themselves the Imperium. Yeah, definitely not a Warhammer 40k reference there. Definitely not. No siree. Nope. And this over here, this is just random. This is just random over here. A kill mail. Right here. Now with a little note here that shows like, yeah, the total worth of the ship that was destroyed was like 12 million is, but apparently this person was hauling an Entosis link, Tech 1, and they put the regional prices for that one Entosis link, and apparently in the Forge that shit was worth 29.6 million is, not 12 million is, way more than what like the sum total of everything lost. But yeah, so this is basically to help showcase like the goings-ons of EVE Online within the framework of this world. All right, and so now let me show you something here. So let's go to the war room. So all you gotta do is just come over here and click this right here. And of course, the audio plays. So I've had to learn. I've learned how to do that now. Basically, to create like how to create like audio playback whenever you interact with something. And so yeah, you notice the design is back. Now, originally, it did not look like this at all in the game, but it looks much better now in Unity. I tried to modernize it, just like largely because of the fact that the textures are old. Like they are low resolution. You can tell when you look closely that they are low resolution, because they're predominantly 256 by 256 or 512 by 512. And when I tried to modernize it, like like more techy, more advanced stuff, I mean, yeah, it looked nice, but again, the old design was just calling back to me. It's like, it's kind of like the voice in the back of your head that's telling you to stop, come back. Yeah, pretty much that. And so, yeah. Now the arrows, I still kept them here, largely so that like when people are coming around and exploring, they'll know where to go and where to interact. So, oh yeah. So here's the Warbarge, and also I've incorporated the. Let me bring up this again. This is the final leaderboard from Dust 514. Image courtesy of Heracles Porsche. I went on his YouTube and just basically screenshotted the whole thing. And yeah, here it is. At the top of the list, we got Eternal Beings with 2.4 million kills. Bolanave, 5.6 million kills. Oh, what order are they using there? What order are they using? Is it by name? How is that sorted? By corporation? Oh, by corporations. Oh, no, wait. Eternal Beings, I think, is put at the top of the list because I think that's where Heracles Porsche was in. Because it usually defaults to showing your corporation at the top of the list and then first place right below you. So Molan Labe, top of the list at 5.6 million kills. Where would that put Eternal Beings? Oh, not even on the first top 10. So. Yeah. Now, however, I did keep the original, not the original, but I did keep the modern console that you see here. I still hated the patchwork design of the old consoles. And also, interesting little tidbit. Dust 514 actually had at least 2 iterations of this console. If you go to the Warbarge in Dust 514, the original design had it where like it's like just multiple objects just mashed together, and then the second iteration has something very close to this. So I think this is actually much closer to the modern version that as it appears in Dust 514. So I still kept this. So let me just show you here. So it looked very much closer to this, honestly. And so as for the the holographic table, I decided to make the Warbarge here a lot smaller because I after all this, I realized I still have room to add a few more stuff and still keep the world under 100 megabytes. So I want to create a holographic map of a battlefield here, or maybe a planetary system that's very like as close as possible to how it appeared in Dust 514. All right, and let me show you around here. Oh, so let me show you some more about the environment. So look at that. And by the way, I'm not using any point lights this time in this section of the world. In the other area, where the bar and the DJ area is, or just like the general lounge, that's still using point lights. But this area definitely is not using point lights at all. So like the lighting is actually coming from the emissives. So especially when you see way over there at the vertical edge. It's like, shit. Let me over here. Let me put this over here. You see over here? That's light coming from the emissives, which is pretty cool. So it's like with proper ambient occlusion and proper adjustment to like the intensity of the emissions, it looks much better this way. And also, so when I imported the mesh, I didn't know at the time that you could actually generate the UV maps for the light maps, which is pretty cool. So this made it much easier to bake the lights and make them look more realistic. Before I couldn't do that, or before I didn't know about that, and so I couldn't figure out how to make the lights bake properly, and that's what encouraged me to do the redesign. But then now, when I learned that trick, I went back and tested it, and it looks way better now than even my redesign. And so I'm like, you know what? I give up. I'm gonna throw away the oldest, I'm gonna throw away the redesign and come back to this. And here we are, and it's much better looking, honestly. And the best part is, because of the way how it looks, it's more consistent with the lounge. So that way, when you transition from the lounge to the war room and back, you're not completely jarred by the experience of you go from PS3 graphics to sudden highly reflective surface, shiny room, and then suddenly back to PS3 graphics. So yeah. Oh, let me show you a little bit more. I still want to show you this. Here's the RDV. Again, There's no point lighting, no area lights, no spot lighting, no point lights used in this. All the light is coming from the emissive textures. And look how realistic this looks. This is the bottom side of the RDV, the remote deployment vehicle. Looks much, much better. Now, I've learned, like, one of the things I've learned about light mapping is that when you're arranging the light maps, I've learned that there's a way to space them apart just enough so that when you're baking the lights, there's no overlap between the polygons. And when you generate the UV maps as you're importing the meshes, you're effectively telling Unity to arrange the polygons of that mesh in a way where it's like it's not going to overlap any other mesh in the scene. And so that was the problem I had when it came to meshes being baked. There were some meshes that had their polygons overlapping others, and so as a result, when there's light being baked on one area, that light was being applied to another mesh in a separate part of the world, and that will cause like an ugly effect with the lighting, and it was less realistic, and it broke immersion. And so today you now have like more realistic lighting, as you can see behind me. It's like, for example, like you see how the shadows are being cast. Like you see the stairs right there, you see the ceiling, everything. The floors. All that. And even the ceilings, look at that. Look how realistic that looks. Actually, I'm wondering if I'm still using point lights for those 4 ceiling lights. Can't remember anymore. Doesn't matter now. All right, one more thing before I end this video. I want to show you one more thing. Again, I'm doing all this in one take. Here we go. You know, these two look much more badass under this lighting than before. You recognize these two, right? These are the Caldari dropships. Look at that. Look at that with baked lighting, ambient occlusion. They do have their normals. Look at that. Holy shit. Yep, look at that. Now, unfortunately though, like when you get a closer look, they're kind of like broken with their textures. This is like some artifacting that I can't really fix unless I go straight into Blender and just analyze it. But the problem is, I don't really have any close-up images of these parts of the ship, so I'm not going to be able to fix them. And look at that, yeah, these chairs. And you have the access, like the door to the cockpit, which that's got to be cramped though. That's got to be really cramped in there. So yeah, let me take a picture of this. All right, so there you have it. Modern design, or the modern or the modern update of the old design. And honestly, it looks way better this way. So that's it. As usual, I hope you like that. Fly safe.